bakers. Hi, I'm Callie, and today I decided, you know what, let's just make a YouTube channel. And, well, in my stressed out state, I generally like to bake, so I figured two birds. And so today we shall be making oatmeal raisin cookies. Now, hold on. I know what you're thinking. Oatmeal raisin cookies, aren't those the worst cookies that you can eat? Well, first off, you clearly haven't had a very dry shortbread cookie, but second of all, you haven't tried the right oatmeal cookie. So, today I will be sharing my coveted oatmeal raisin recipe. But first, we need to get supplies. So, we're gonna take our smaller bowl, move this big boy out of the way. You can push to the side your butter, your egg, your vanilla, and your sugar. They don't need to be a part of this just yet. You need some flour. You know, the building block of all things baking. Don't have a 3/4 cup measuring cup. So instead, we got 1/2 and 1/4. Yeet. So you use the smaller cup to fill the bigger cup. Kniffys are useful because then you can level out your measurement, because be precise up in here. So, 1/2 cup. That's just for flavor. And then you take your 1/4 cup. This one I just scoop willy-nilly. The reason to have one to fill the other is that way you're not compacting the flour, because that's the problem with volume measurements, is that there's a lot of room for user error. Thanks, engineering. So you use the smaller cup to fill the bigger cup, so then you get a more even measurement, more accurate measurement. Now, we know how much oats to add, which is 1.5 cups. So yeah. We on to the real key ingredient, the raisins. 1/2 cup au raisin, or whatever the heck you feel like adding. Now we need salt. And for salt, it's really just you need some, because science fact, salt brings out the sweetness of sugar. So no matter what you're baking, you always want to add just a little bit of salt for anything you're making that's trying to be sweet. And similarly, for chocolate, if you want it to taste extra chocolatey, you add a little bit of espresso, and then it's that much more chocolate. So, got 1/4 teaspoon. Feels right. Then you get a 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, not baking soda. They are two different things. They both do a similar thing in that they rise, but they serve different purposes, and so they're not substitutes. Cinnamon. The recipe calls for a half teaspoon, but I'm probably gonna add 1 1/4, just because I like the taste of cinnamon. And this is the great thing about making your own cookies, that you can make them however the heck you please. We have all of these dry ingredients. It looks like this because it's not mixed together. And then we take, I'm gonna use a wooden spoon. You can really use anything you want. Just mix it together. You can stir as long as you want, but it's not gonna get much more mixed than that. Now it gets interesting. Because we're taking our giant bowl, our stick of room temperature butter, and 3/4 cup brown sugar. Unlike the flour, we want this to be really compacted. So when you dump it in, it goes as a block. So we're back. And the butter is room temp. So now, the fun part. So I got my brand new Cuisinart. We're just gonna put in, these are like the standard beater. There's like a whisk, which you don't want to use for whipping. So we're gonna put this on speed. That is also, it is medium speed, but this is a brand spanking new machine and it has 7 speeds. So like 4? This is the point where you feel like you want to stop because stuff's mixed together, but you don't want to stop just yet. This is why you want the butter to be softened, is so that you don't just get stuck with that pebbly texture. It's its own mass. It's not pebbly. This is what you want it to look. If this mixture had flour in it, you can overmix that. Where like you don't want to do that because like pancake batter, you want to mix the least amount. So then you have these nice fluffy pancakes that aren't super chewy. Where if you overmixed it, they would get really chewy because you develop more gluten the more you irritate flour. So since this is just butter and sugar, you can't really mess it up, and you want it to be creamed because that's where the air comes from. That's why we beat it in. There are other kinds of recipes where like macarons, the air is based off of egg whites and how much you beat them, and then you like fold them to get it to the consistency you want. Now we just need to add some vanilla, and I didn't think this through, but my measuring spoons are currently being washed, but this looks like about a teaspoon is left in here, so I'm just gonna kind of get rid of all of it. First thing we're gonna do is scrape down the bowl so that we get all of the things we want in here. Just wipe off whatever's on your spatula. Alright, good enough for government work. You want to make sure there's no like obvious lumps. We take our dry ingredients, and some recipes need to add stuff in slowly to not overwhelm the mixture. But because this is a super basic cookie recipe, you can just dump it in. So now we're going to turn it on again, but this time we want it to be on low speed. I didn't mix it a ton. I just wanted everything to be mixed together so then there's no dry spots. And so this is what it looks like now. And we are going to knock everything over. Gonna take our 2 spoons, scoop a little bit. So this is a lot of cookie. I like to have little cookies so then you can have more of them. And so this is a pretty big size for the cookie. Usually about here. It's pretty good. So then we're just spacing them out. And these cookies aren't going to grow a ton because the oats don't change shape really. So you can space them pretty close together. I'd say no closer than like 1.5 inches apart. But the other trick is if your cookies do end up touching, when you pull them out, first thing when they're still hot, take a spatula and just like cut them apart and then push each end back into the cookie itself. It won't look perfect, but while they're that hot, the cookie will kind of heal itself, and so it won't be nearly as apparent that your cookies collided. Because this mixture is the way it is, the cookies, you just kind of like have to pile them together and be like, yeah, they'll cook. So I was able to fit 12 cookies on this sheet because I'm a pro. And so now we're gonna pop these in the oven for 15 minutes. This will be a little more interesting because I'm at altitude and I don't have a ton of experience cooking at altitude. So we'll see. All right, and so while those are baking, feel free to indulge in your snack. But the other thing is, if you have 2 cookie sheets, like I do, I am going to, since I don't have another Silpat, I'm going to use the leftover butter wrapper that I so geniusly saved for this. Wow. Yeah, so I'm gonna take my butter, I'm gonna spread it around real nice. Thanks, spoon, for just eating yourself over here. Right, and then we're gonna go throw this in the compost. The last step of this recipe is to free them from the baking sheet and set them on a cooling rack. Just thought I'd show you the finished product. So I hope you make this recipe at home. I hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Bye.